Hello there. My name's David Allen. I'm a Master of Wine, and I'm here in Bordeaux at the moment, in fact in Saint-Julien, in the cellars of Leoville, the prime property owned by the Delon family, tasting through their range of wines. The wine I have in my glass at the moment is Chateau Potensac, which is a property they have in the Medoc that is often regarded as making some quite traditionally styled, long-aging, high-quality wines. And actually, this is a wine that's slightly surprised me this year because being Merlot dominated and it having been a year where there was very little rainfall, evidently their Merlot vineyards are on limestone soils. And what this has meant, due to a blend with 41% of Merlot, 37% of Cabernet Sauvignon, and the balance of 22% of Cabernet Franc, means that the Merlot has really shone through. Because what happens with limestone is that it acts as a sponge and it will hold water and very slowly let it out to the plant through the vintage. So these are soils whose water reserves were filled up over the winter and very slowly provided it to the vines, even during the arid periods. There was a little rain at the end of August, and that was just enough to help bring the vines back to life and to see the fruit through to full ripeness, ready for an early harvest, which I think was the earliest that they'd had at Potensac. They started on the 12th of September and went through to the 22nd. And to my mind, there's a lovely freshness showing through in a wine that I would normally expect to be quite brooding. So let's have a look at it, shall we? There's a nice depth of colour. It's more or less a ruby colour with some purple hints at the rim. Swilling it, the wine has 13.5% alcohol and obviously has a certain amount of tannin in there because it's quite readily forming some tears on the side of the glass there. See what make of the aromas. And yes, that was the first thing that really hit me about this. There's an almost floral red fruit note here. I suppose actually a bright, juicy, young red plum. And perhaps a hint of, maybe it's auto-suggestion, but perhaps a hint of chalkiness in the nature of the tannins. So let's have a taste. There is a lovely fresh acidity, and that's a very common factor in the 2025s. I think perhaps also that's emphasised by the fact that the alcohol is relatively balanced. There is this fine, chalky tannin coming through. I'm saying it's chalky. It's not particularly astringent, though. There's a suppleness to it that I think is enhanced by the juiciness that's being given to the fruit by the wine's lovely acidity. Again, the notes are more of red plum, perhaps hints of cranberry, much more on the red fruit end of the spectrum than the darker fruit that perhaps I was expecting from my past tasting of Potensac. I think the wine is very accessible. I think it'll probably be really enjoyable to drink in its youth. I don't think it will need to be cellared, although given its acidity, given its concentration, this certainly is a wine that would have a 10-year lifespan and probably longer. I don't know that this is necessarily the sort of wine that one has to look for when you're buying enprimeur. It's probably not a sort of wine that will have to be acquired on allocation, but at the same time, it is the sort of wine that if you're looking for good value and you're looking for a couple of cases to add to an order, this can be an absolutely great selection. Thank you very much for joining me. I do hope that you will use winesearcher as a resource while you're making your enprimeur purchases. To me, I think it's an essential tool to tell you about pricing histories of these wines, about where to find them and where to get the best value. So thanks so much for joining. Do press the like button and hopefully we'll see you at the next tasting. Bye for now.